DizzyPunch. Hello and welcome to the GM Bus Stop, where I summon people to keep me company while I wait for my bus. I'm Nick, your host for this series, and here with me today is the GM of This Could Get Dicey podcast, Becky Schmader. Woo!
Hello, hello, hello.
Today is a beautiful day for an interview. Thank you so much for taking the time
Oh,
to
I
chat with
see
me.
what you did.
Yeah, I gotta do something,
Yeah.
right? I gotta make. Sorry.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. This is, you, it's really cool that you're just going out and like interviewing different game masters and getting to know them. So I feel honored to be here.
I'm honored to have you here. We're a very relatively new series, and having, and I was a fan before this, so I'm really happy that we could get you on here.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right. Um, let's get into the questions. Why why don't we? Why not?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. Doing research on you and your podcast, I discovered that we both have backgrounds in filmmaking, which is really cool. I'm curious to hear what drew you to D&D as a medium of storytelling and what differences you see in telling stories for films or games. Consider you also studied game design, which is also really cool.
Yeah, I studied like film and animation and game design and definitely like really loved the storytelling aspect of all of that. It's one thing, there's like obviously like the visual art part of that, but the storytelling was really awesome. And I think what like drew me into like really wanting to be a DM or a GM for like tabletop games was like the collaboration of storytelling that's possible with it. I think there's collaboration obviously in animation and film and game design, but um, you're like doing it live, right? Like you're sitting at a table with people and you're talking and you're creating the story like as you're going, and it's not like, okay, we do this, we pass it, and there's no passing back and forth to like different departments. It's like, here's this group, we're telling a story together, and like let's tell the best story we can. And so that definitely like drew me to it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I will say it is a collaboration thing to work with people to work on like a single story, but I feel like everything does get muddled when there's too much work towards it. But like D&D in itself is truly like you have one person who has the idea of the story and they're trying to tell it, and then there's people trying to be in the story and try to live it out, and that's its own thing and makes it much more believable in that sense. You know, sometimes I can feel a lot of projects don't feel like I believe in the story they're trying to tell me. Well, other people are just trying to tell the story they want to tell, and I think that's just beautiful in its own right. You know.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the special part of like the storytelling of D&D is that like everyone kind of has to like agree to want to tell that story. I feel like in like a professional sense, you're on a film set, for instance, and like there are certain people who are like, we are in charge of the story, and you all are here to help make that story happen. But in like in D&D, it's very much like, all right, here's the world I've created, and you all are the players, and like let's do this and make something together. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man, I'm having flashbacks right now back to my old days. But
Yeah.
yeah, that hierarchy does exist, especially if you're working on someone else's project and it is a collaborative thing, but it's like it's their vision that you're trying to create, or when you're doing your own project, people are trying to help you create your own vision, but then it's everyone's vision to move forward with the story in a D&D selling story sense, which is really awesome. You know, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's also easier. No offense, like
It's a lot easier.
it's
Yes.
easier. Not to slack on any other D&D groups or anything, but trust me, the stress is beyond anything you want in comparison.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. There are horror stories I could tell you of making films. I had a final film project that had to be like shut down because
Oh my gosh.
we recorded everything, and then the guy who was in charge of like downloading all the sounds from the card thought he was doing it correctly because he never went to class and figured out like,
Oh
oh,
no.
I have to like download this in a very particular way. I can't just like drag and drop shit because the sounds only exist in the file. So if the project just had to be scrapped because it was a very dialogue heavy thing, and then it was just gone.
That's a mess.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be disappointing and would definitely put me off to filmmaking.
yeah. Well, But yeah, not, but you know, things happen for a reason. But we are here where we are here. So yeah.
Exactly.
Um, ooh, next question's gonna be a bit of a technical one, but I feel like we can get through
Okay.
this together.
Okay.
All right. Magic and spellcasting is an optional choice for many campaigns, but it's used consistently as a storytelling device for game mechanics. In your opinion, what is the importance of spells in D&D, and can campaigns without magic maintain the same level of excitement?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Hmm.
Let's see. I guess it's interesting because like in our first campaign here for this Could Get Dicey, like we have like when I created the world, I had a focus of like each continent would be kind of focused on the different origins of the original like sorcery.
Hmm.
So like dragon bloodline. I forgot the exact wording. Dragon bloodline,
Hmm.
wild magic, and then the third continent that we haven't gone to is based on like what is it? Like the elements
Hmm.
and weather. Um, and so I kind of it's you can it's interesting because it's like hopefully I'm not losing the thread here, but
No.
like it's interesting being able to kind of like develop magic like that, like having your characters like run into some form of magic, even if in terms of D&D it might be like very basic magic, but it's like you've never seen this person cast Eldritch Blast before, like that's a basic spell, but you know maybe you've never seen that because like you're from a small town or you're just not around people who use magic. And I think there's like a lot of opportunity to create like a really exciting story with no magic because um, I think you can keep it going just because it almost could add like a layer of challenge. Like imagine facing these monsters without magic, like imagine running into a vampire and you're like, I don't have anything against this guy except for a sword, like that would be scary. So I think there's an opportunity that like the excitement can kind of come from like the stakes being so high and there almost being like more danger because you have like nothing to rely on except for like brute strength and like being a normal human. Um, so yeah, that's a fun kind of thought. Now I'm like, ooh, what kind of ideas can we come
Just
up
like
with that?
rolling with the brain, getting up the
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Constantly just like D&D is like always on my mind. I'm like,
Hmm.
that's a good idea. Oh, like write that down or like uh, stuff is always flowing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. That's a cool idea.
Hmm. Yeah, I wanted to ask this question because I think we both are kind of like very much thinking of like the meta things of like of spells and such. I know that you do a lot of postings on like what if particular spells had a bit of changes to make it better, or like particular things that you
Yeah.
post on your Instagram, which is really cool. And I thought it'd be integrated here. And I'm to kind of add on to the question itself. I think I had it's a bit unfair for me to like put my own opinions since I've written the question down, but like
Sure, sure.
I've had a lot more time to consider the answer, but it kind of like came to me where spells uh, are help move the story in the sense of like it makes you roll more dice. I feel like if you really
Mm,
want to create a change in a scene, like having the players roll more dice as possible, I think really changes the dynamic of things. I think if it's if you just have campaigns where it's just like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then okay, you do that, then there's what's the excitement there? Or like the concept of like revivify as well. It's like, oh, I could bring I have this magical spell that could bring this person back to life, but there's a chance it might not work in that sense, or it might not have the opportunity to. So spells really change what the capacity of players are able to do. Like they give them a specific powers that kind of either moves the story forward in in a very like interesting way. I think I can think of like countless times where the fate of characters lied on a single spell. Like one of my characters had like a dispel magic, and they were fighting this golem, and golem is level 5 spell, and they had just the level needed to like completely dispel an entire enemy boss, which which was
that's
like
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, which was like, oh shit. Honestly, this does sound cool though. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I mean, you think about like a fighter who has like no magic running into a space and trying to like role play, get themselves out of a situation versus like a sorcerer coming in and doing that same thing. Like they obviously have like way different toolkits, and magic basically unlocks like that whole new toolkit of like I can charm this person, I can manipulate them somehow, I can put them to sleep, I can do all these things versus like a fighter's like I can kill
Hit.
them, I
I can
can
hit them
attack them,
really
I
hard.
can I can hit them, I can maybe intimidate them, but like ooh, that could
Yeah.
be good, could be not good. So yeah, I think that's a good point of like magic really like opens up so many opportunities for those characters.
Yeah. I can also imagine certain people being isekai'd into in like a fantasy setting where you would
Yeah.
encounter a lot of like strong people or like people who are able to like physically be impactful in your travels, and then there's just you like I know how to read books and do
Yeah.
certain things. It's like it makes you much more useful in that sense of like you can contribute more to like offensive capabilities in that sense, like in case encounters, for example, if you're what's an example? Encounters, you could be like studying the creature, like oh, its weak spot is there, or like
Right.
which is its own value, but like you not only if you could do that and also do something else that would also make yourself incredibly valuable to the situation.
It's almost like I don't know. I'm a big video
Mhm.
game player, but it's like
Yeah.
kind of considering like Monster Hunter,
Mm-hmm.
where you are there's like some magical elements kind of going on there. But I mean, like you have to prepare to be like, I'm gonna hunt this big giant dinosaur creature, and like I know it's weak to ice, so like let me get the right weapon and the right armor and like all
Mm-hmm.
these things. And I think having like a world with no magic in D&D would like really open up a lot of opportunities for like crafting
Mm-hmm.
or um like research of being like, okay, if we're gonna make this long distance across this woods, like what kind of or across this like forest and stuff, like what kind of monsters might we run into, um and knowing that, then like what do we do to prepare for it, because like I don't have this arsenal of magic in my pocket, I have to think about like
Mm-hmm.
everything else.
Yeah,
I'm
you have
thinking
to
about like a
game.
Monster Hunter
Yeah.
campaign. Yeah.
You gotta game the system. That's what you.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh, this question kind of came up in my head as well, is because like the campaign we're running is very much a steampunk punk aesthetic, where magic isn't common, but like the way we've kind of skinned it is that your magical abilities come from your natural body. Like for example, one of my players is a shapeshifter that can like grow nails as weapons. So it
Ooh.
it becomes like a natural stack, or then like magic exists as like technology. So I have an artificer wizard on my group who kind of like summons this this like steel defender coming out and goes, which is very fun. And then I've also added gods into the equation, which
Mm.
is funny, but I don't want to spoil too much about that for myself.
Sure.
Listen to the podcast, people.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the idea of like magic being reskinned into being like a tool or like something that you can, if I get the right pieces together, like I can make a fireball cannon, something like that. I think like that's a fun way to make it feel more real, because I think a lot of times it's easy enough to be like, oh, I learned this new spell, whatever. Like, oh, like your character wakes up one morning and suddenly they know how to make a giant fireball. Like that's a little crazy to think about. That's what's I
Yeah.
don't think I certainly don't stop enough as a GM to be like, let's talk about like what was that like for you to gain
Hmm.
those new spells, because it is kind of weird to think about, like you wake up one morning, five new things, and like that doesn't happen in real life. I don't wake up and suddenly I'm like, I
Hmm.
read five books. Like, um,
That's a great point. I mean, I think this is the same discussion can be had with multi-classing as well. It's like I want
definitely.
it's where it's like I one of my players fish he wanted to be a fighter, and I was like okay, how? And he was like, I don't know,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just want to be a fighter. And I was okay, sure, we're gonna figure out a narrative reason why you're going to be a fighter, and we did, and it was fun, and I think I love it right now, and it's gonna tie into the story really well. But I think quick tip for any GM is that instead of saying no, try saying how are we gonna make this happen?
How?
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. That's how one of my players, they started as a bard, but like he told me, he was like, I want to become a warlock at some point. I'm gonna like leave it up in your hands as to like how that kind of happens. Like I don't want to make like I don't want to plan that all out. He was like, I want to multi-class into warlock. That's up to you. And I was like, that's great. This is the best piece of like meat as a GM you can get, of like I get to plan a devil, or
Mhm,
a grand fae, or like
mhm.
a old god descending on you. That's great.
Yeah.
Like, cool. And you're okay with that.
Man, that's awesome. That reminds me a lot of my Corvin, one of my characters, like, I want to play a cleric, but I don't want to know what my god is. And I was like, we're good. I got
That's
this.
fun. That's
This is
fun. Yeah.
this is like but yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. There's a lot of things to consider with this, which is why I wanted to ask the question. And I asked my friend, like, is this question sound too wordy? I was like, if it was just me, yes, but if it was someone like you, then this is fine. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
awesome.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah. I'll go to the next question then. Listening to your series, it's obvious that you put a huge emphasis on immersion. What advice would you give to newer GMs on creating an immersive atmosphere?
Ooh, I feel like I thank you for saying I focus on it, because I feel like I do, but then I also have like flounderings where I'm like, it's Wednesday, like in the middle, like
Yeah.
I like named all the months, but
Yeah,
then forgot
that's what.
about the days of the week. Yeah. So I guess for those at home, it's like start small, like start at like what needs to be known. Like I think it's easy to get caught up in like what are the days of the week? What's the month? What's the moon like? Are there planets? Like it's easy to get from like so small to like outer space really
Mhm,
fast. So I think you got to start at like, I know they want to go to this city. Okay, what is this city like? Why does this city exist geographically where it does? Um, and then kind of work it out from there. Like, okay, like one of the first cities they go to in our campaign is Mistfall. That's like located at the base of this mountain. So I imagined like mining stuff, like mined ores would come down from the mountain. So like they would take the raw materials and turn it into like jewelry and like fine crafted metals and stuff. And so I kind of knowing that, then it's like, okay, maybe it's a wealthier city, and there would definitely be lots of like blacksmiths and artisans. And I think I said start small. That seems still kind of big, but still starting small of like, where are we going, and kind of just working out from there. Like we're going to these woods. Why are those woods there? And I think like that kind of helps then get more of the details of like, yeah, they walk into the city and it smells like, there's tons of smoke in the air, and there's tons of hammers hitting anvils, and things like that. And so I think
mhm.
if you know why stuff exists, then it can help build out that world for your players, and help you describe, so that way immersion is better.
Hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely. I feel like putting things, um, in putting like things that you've known and like you've had emotional ties to into the game as well really helps just making people feel connected with it. We had recently a session where my players entered a card shop, and we were talking about all the things that people would be doing it like in a card shop, and like some people explaining the game and people not understanding the concepts of the card game, like, and the person's still going on, and that's something that's drawn towards like my memory of like, oh, I've been in like these exact scenarios, and that's what draws me into like feeling like this is real, but as well as like connecting back to senses, as you were saying, like talking about smells, talking about what you hear, the bustling of crowds.
Yeah.
That helps a
Yeah,
lot.
I think that's a good point though, on like taking from what you know. Like there's a character that comes up later in our campaign. I don't want to like, for
Mhm.
maybe new listeners, I don't want to give away too much, but there's a character that comes up, that is like really focused on nature, and it's kind of was mirroring like I'm getting into like gardening, and getting outside and getting in the dirt and stuff. And my players were making fun of me because they're like, "Is this like a self-insert character? Like, are you just like taking your gardening like person and like putting them into the game?" And I was like, no, but like I can see why exactly you would say that, and that wasn't my intention, but like,
Mhm.
but it makes the character believable, huh? Like, I'm able to say this weird carrot fact about, carrots are taste better when it's cold outside and you harvest them, or whatever. And I know that because I've been watching like
Mhm.
hundreds of hours of gardening
Yeah.
videos. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's the I'll say that the one problem with like trying to like put yourself into these kind of like stories is that your players can really tell, like,
Yes.
really tell like, oh, maybe it's something that you think this is a cool thing, where it's like,
Yes, yes.
I was called out
It-
like early in my campaign where it was like I brought everyone to a muscle bar. And then there's a bunch of like muscly men and women in the bar, and it's like, and I said this, I was like, this is a very cool atmosphere you guys are in here. It's like, Nick, is this what is this just for you? Do you like this?
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. I know,
maybe.
and that's it's a hard balance as a GM
Mhm,
because like I know I really like messing with like gods in
mhm,
campaigns, and I'm learning quickly that I don't know how much my players are. They're not against it, but
mhm,
it's definitely not their like their first instinct isn't to be like, yeah, let's like pray to a god or something like that.
mhm,
And so I think like that's it's interesting of like how do you find that balance of like I don't want to force you all into my interest just because we're playing in my
mhm.
world, but also like let's go to the muscle bar because I love like
I want to have a good
muscly
time,
people.
guys.
So yeah, I want to have a good time and I want to see the eye candy.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
let's so yeah, it's a
Yeah.
balance,
Mhm,
but as long as you're you can
mhm.
find it,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of fun to
Mhm.
be had there too.
Yeah. Also, good tip for GMs: don't say someone is attractive, because then that just says that your opinion of it gives your opinion on what is attractive when you describe someone. So it's
True.
yeah.
It's safe to say, just
Mhm.
everyone's hot.
Yeah.
Everyone's hot in our campaigns. You know.
Everyone's hot in the it's all in the eyes of the beholder, you know.
Yeah. Whatever you think that is,
Hmm.
that's exactly. Yeah. They're that kind of. They're
Hmm.
that attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's oh, great. Let's go to the next question. Yeah. As you can see by my side, I have a magical vending machine which can summon any snack at my disposal. What is your go-to snack or beverage whenever playing D&D?
Ooh. We've been so with my like home game, we've been getting into these our like local grocery store creates they do like seasonal chips,
Mm,
and so like and they're like wacky flavors. It reminds me of like when Lay's was doing that competition for like new chip flavors, and there
mm-hmm,
were some like really out there ones. Well, now our grocery store is like making these chips that are like really wacky. It started with they did a stuffing. This was for Thanksgiving, so
yeah.
they did like a Thanksgiving stuffing flavor and an apple pie flavor, and we were like, okay, this could be really good. And we tried them, and we are like, oh, the stuffing ones were like some of the best chips I've like ever had. And then the apple pie ones were like kind of a surprising. I liked them. They had like imagine potatoes with cinnamon and like some butter on them, and that's what they tasted like. But now it's like a tradition of like, oh, the new chips are out. It's been 3 months, new season, new chips. So that's kind of what we've been bringing to the table. Those and Dots pretzels are like, I don't know if have you had Dots pretzels before?
Um, I I have not. Sorry, it doesn't sound
They're
familiar.
just these pretzel sticks, but there's the seasoning they put on them. It's like so addictive, and I don't even know like sometimes they're hard to find, sometimes they're easy to find, and there's like multiple
Mm-hmm.
flavors and stuff. But so if you ever see Dots pretzels, I recommend those.
Nice.
Not sponsored, but hey,
Hey,
wish I was.
yeah. Give sponsor us with just unlimited supply of sticks and
Just
yeah,
the pretzels. I don't
yeah.
need the money, just the pretzels. So those would be my two. What about what's your go-to snack?
I've said this before on the channel. I think I'm just gonna keep saying like snacks that I eat. Um, some things I really enjoy. I recently made matcha cookies. So
Ooh.
it's very interesting. I had some matcha because my mother had read like some health benefits of matcha, and then she was like, "You shoot,
Sure.
I'm gonna try this out," and then tasted terrible, and we never we left it on the shelf for a bit, and then I was like, maybe we can do something with this. So I got bananas, oats, a bit of vanilla, and some chocolate chips, and I'd kind of like mix the matcha with that, so it kind of has a green cookie. It's very soft, and then I air fried it, but you can bake it if you really want to in an oven, and then just very soft chocolatey cookie, which it, most
It
of the
has
rest of
like some slight health
yeah,
benefits. Yeah.
yeah. Listen, most cookies have like a stick of butter, sugar, and like
Yeah.
flour, and like mixed all together. This is you don't need all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Comparatively,
Hmm.
these are good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and just been drinking a lot of hibiscus tea lately. That's just been my go-to now.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
yeah. Very
Refreshing.
yeah. Very good if you have problems with water retention. That's my
Oh,
health fact for you today. Uh,
good to know.
yeah. Um, especially like let's say you had like bread or pizza at the end of the day, and you have this kind of like unquenchable thirst. That happens because your livers are inflamed because of the yeast in like the dough. So what hibiscus does is that it's a natural inflammatory, anti-inflammatory. So when you drink it, it just helps reduce the swelling, and you don't have to drink anymore.
I'm gonna go to the grocery store and buy a bunch of hibiscus tea now, because like I feel like the older we get, the more our bodies are like,
Mhm.
I'm just generally not feeling great. It's
Yeah.
like things that you used to be able to eat, you can't eat anymore. You
Hmm.
wake up, your back hurts, all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe
Hmm.
I'll try some hibiscus tea.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, like it's a decent tea. I like jasmine more than anything else, but it's good. It's healthy. It
Yeah,
helps.
yeah.
Yeah, that's my thing. I should mention my last D&D game. My DM called me out because I said I eat whatever someone gives me, but I now recall that I brought strawberry Twizzlers, sour Twizzlers all the time when I went there, and I just
Oh
like
yeah.
blocked that out of my memory. But to be fair, I never ate them because my DM just stole them every time we were we were doing a session, so I wasn't lying when I said.
Twizzler, that's a
Hmm.
good DM snack, because it's like
Hmm.
you take a bite, you can
Hmm.
like wave it around,
Yeah.
point at the,
Hmm.
point at combat with it,
Hmm.
take another bite.
Hmm.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I don't suggest almonds. I don't know why Brendan does the Brendan Lee Mulligan like eats
He
almonds.
just snacks up the
Yeah.
almond. I can't do that.
No, I mean like that's a very chewy snack almonds, as well as like salami
Yeah,
as well. That's also kind of like that
it's
like
a
that affects
yeah.
your mouth as well. Like I don't feel like
Yeah, it's like, hold on, I gotta sit for a second,
Mhm.
chew my nuts and the
Yeah.
salami and get through this.
Hmm. He has these moments where it's like he looks so
He gets
surprised when
caught. Yeah,
yeah he gets caught in between, and he's like so yeah, you guys want to do that? That's good.
that's
So
great. Yeah,
yeah, oh, he has these mannerisms. Was it like sometimes he says okay, or it's hell yeah, or yeah, he has these like filler words he puts in so that way he has time to like chew or contemplate, which is
yes.
really funny. When you catch it, you're like, oh, okay, he's thinking, right?
And one of our players, he does
Hmm.
all the music and edits our podcast,
Hmm.
and so he's like, yeah, I noticed a lot of y'all's like either like nervous ticks, or
Hmm.
like the things that you're like saying, as we're talking, or like who's a mouth breather and things like that. But he's like, you for sure do something similar to like Brennan, where like you're saying like awesome, or like you're like, okay, yeah, you do that. And so it's interesting to learn what sort of phrases we might all, like we probably all as DMs have
Yeah.
uh, some sort of
Hmm.
catchphrase we're saying on accident all the time.
True. I edit most of our sessions, and I can tell you, I cut out. I feel like 100 times I say like, or like,
Yes.
or either say and like, or I just cut that out completely when when because when I hear it, I say, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That just doesn't
That
sound great. That doesn't sound good. And just being that person where you like hear yourself is just like it's a weird feeling.
I I'm glad I only edit some of the videos we do for
Hmm.
social media. I'm so glad I don't have to listen to
Hmm.
for like hundreds of hours me talking, because it would definitely like replay it. I'd be like, I don't want to hear myself anymore. Let's just stop. Let's stop recording the podcast. I don't want to do this anymore.
Hmm. You gotta take breaks in between. That's truly what you
Yeah.
gotta do. But I have to say, it is fun to re-listen to a past episode because I think
Yes.
you get to experience the same emotions you did beforehand, which is something that I never really understood until we started recording. I kind of it made me wish I recorded our past campaigns together because
Yeah.
this is not our first campaign as a group. We had one before, and now we're gonna make that campaign into an animation, which is cool. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, but I wish we had more so we could like remember the fun events that occurred. But
It's
like,
yeah, it
mhm,
can be really intense. I feel like was re-listening to one of our episodes recently in which me and one of our players were. It was like a heated conversation we were having in game.
Mhm.
We're friends out of game, no
Yeah.
problems there. But like I was like re-listening to it, and I was like, gosh, I'm like getting like heated. Like I'm like angry again. Like I don't. Sometimes it's a little hard to listen to it again because it's one thing if it's a happy emotion, but if it's like kind of an unhappy or like an angry emotion, I was like, I'm gonna skip through this a little bit.
Oh man, I get that. I get that completely. Wanting to
Yeah.
skip through like bad moments, or not just bad
Yeah.
moments, but more like almost uncomfortable moments.
It
Like,
was, yeah,
yeah.
it's uncomfortable, I think is what it is. It's like I
Mhm.
don't like being angry at my friend, and yet
Mhm.
here I am having to listen to myself be angry at my friend again.
Mhm.
But it makes for good storytelling, so
Mhm.
there's that.
Yeah, we gotta we gotta go. We gotta sift through the cringe and the uncomfortableness for our art.
Yes, yes, anything for our art.
Yeah. But yeah, that's great. Next segment, I wanted to just spotlight your artists. So, you do have a lot of art from enzooart on Insta. They did an amazing job designing the avatars for your series, which is which is great. What do you feel about it?
Yeah, I like don't know them personally. I'm a big I'm on Twitter and I just like love following. I'm not ever calling it X by the way. I'm on
Yeah,
Twitter,
yeah.
um, and I follow artists. I follow them on Instagram too, and like I've always just been like a big admirer of art and like I've tried digital art in the past, but I'm always just like, but there's people out there doing it better, so like I'll just follow them instead. And there's somebody who I found on Twitter probably like at least a year before we even thought about
Mhm.
commissioning anybody for art, and I thought they were like perfect for it. They focus a lot on male presenting individuals, and uh, all three of the characters in our campaign are male presenting, and so I was like, this seems like a good fit. I really like their style. It's like simple. It helps kind it's not it has like good line work, and so yeah, I commissioned them, and honestly, if you have the privilege and the ability to commission an artist for like some sort of custom piece or something like say do it like that is such a special and fun moment to be able to be like I am having a relationship. It feels like I think back in what like the 1800s or even before that, like there'd be like benefactors for artists and stuff like that where it's like, yeah, I'll give you money and a house and then you get to like paint and I get to enjoy the art or whatever. And it's like a small sliver of like what that must have felt like of like I give you money and then in a time period you'll return art that is just for me, and that's it's a cool feeling. So I recommend commissioning artists. But yeah, the Inzu they did a great job. Definitely follow them, Inzu Art on Instagram.
Mhm.
They're yeah, it's great work, and they do a lot of like they do a lot of stuff with their own original characters and stuff.
Yeah, I was looking up their Instagram as well. They have really well body proportions. The
Yeah,
line art is really good.
it's
The
great.
coloring. Hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
hashtag support artists no matter what. But
definitely yes. Um,
yeah. Um,
especially now, it's easy I think to people forget they're out there. But yeah,
mhm,
definitely, I yeah support the art, support
mhm.
artists. Um, give them work.
Yeah,
It's fun. It's really fun.
yeah, we need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I also say like with collaborating with people it is just a fun thing of working with like creative people who know what they're like people professional people in their industry who know what they're doing. It's
yeah.
just who are good and who are passionate about it. It's just such a privilege when you have the opportunity to do it. Hmm.
I know. I like really hope I was like a good commissioner on my side because I always see like artists be like, if you're commissioning something, like don't just say you want like three guys in a picture or whatever. Like have references, have like what pose do you want, like give them as much information as you can so that way it makes their lives easier. And so like I got together this like Google Drive and I like gave instructions to my players and I was like, I need this information and this information and got it all together in a folder and like sent it over to the artist. And then when they came back with critiques, I was like, we're gonna do one round of critiques. Like I'm not sitting here, guys, and doing back and forth with them. Like I want to honor their time. Like
Hmm.
so I wanted to make sure, hopefully Inzu thinks we were good commissioners and weren't too like picky or anything like that. So uh, I
Yeah.
wanted to like get everybody in line though, because
Mhm.
I've heard such nightmares of like we went back and forth for like on like 8 layers of edits on the same thing, and it was never perfect and things like that. So I had to like teach my players too. I'm like, this is what we're looking for when we're critiquing art. Like, it's good looking art. That's not what we're here for. It's like, do you think it represents your character well? Like, is this how you imagined your character? Things like that. So it was. So I hope I did a good job.
That has very much like school teacher energy of like, listen, class,
Yeah,
we're gonna talk about Nathan's
exactly.
project. I want everyone to
Yeah,
give a nice comment to say what they did correctly in their statements and what they could improve on
exactly.
moving forward.
This is how we do creative or like
Mhm,
critique creative work
mhm,
and constructive.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'll say that being an artist, there is a lot of stress on getting projects on time and making sure like the art is what the commissioner wants.
yeah,
It's yeah. The problem is sometimes you don't even interact with people. It's through messages, but and I
yeah.
and which is a bit difficult to get the gist of people because sometimes people are not. Or some people, there's a language barrier at some points where it's like, oh,
Mhm.
we might not speak the same language, but you like my work, you want me to commission something of it, which is difficult, but it's manageable in a certain sense. Thank God for Google Translate, but we're
Yeah,
yeah.
it's hard. Yeah,
Hmm.
I do like leather working as a
Hmm.
side like thing, and
Hmm.
sometimes I would get work commissioned to make pieces for mostly for drag queens.
Oh.
Um, and there's been sometimes though where I'm just like, I'm sorry, like I understand your vision, I understand like this is definitely doable. I just don't want to do that though. Like I can see the path of like this would be so complicated and so like lots of
Mhm.
revisions, lots of measurements and stuff. So I'm just like, think it's best if I just don't take this one on, because yeah, it's a lot of stress, just like the mental load of like, gosh, I hope I'm like doing this person's vision justice, and like
Mhm.
I hope I'm making like they're paying me, so gosh, I hope I'm like giving them their money's worth and stuff, and sometimes it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
That mental stress isn't worth it. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I get I get that. I'm a part-time blacksmith, so I understand.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, I'm a busy guy. That's my life.
Yeah, I'm a serial hobbyist. I
Hmm.
get it. I have D&D, I have
Hmm.
leatherworking, I paint
Hmm.
miniatures, I'm working on terrain now, I play music sometimes.
Hmm.
When I have time, I garden. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, there's too much.
Yeah.
Not enough time.
Ugh, not enough people to like give people like mitigate problems or like
Yeah.
just solve this for me, please. I don't have
Yeah.
to. Yeah. But yeah. Speaking of like spotlighting people, I know that Alex Villarreal. So I'm probably
You
terribly.
said it right.
Oh yeah.
No, you
Okay.
did it right.
Uh, who plays Elist creates all the sick music you guys use for your series. So, which is I say is really sick music that you guys have.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Alex, he does all the music. Like he's been. I mean, he's been playing music for forever, and he used to be part of like a band, and now he still kind of makes music every once in a while with the group as well. But yeah, he's always been into kind of like pop punk or like indie. I'm sure I'm gonna get the genre wrong, like that he plays. But sorry, Alex, when you hear this, but um, he's always kind of been focused on like playing guitar and singing, and like a normal rock band, if you will. And so getting to like composing music, I know has been like a learning experience for him, and definitely like me and him collaborating together, because I'm like a huge I love like video game soundtracks
Mhm.
and movie soundtracks, and and classical music, and so I listen to a lot of like composed music like
Mhm.
that, and so it's a lot of collaboration of me being like, okay, we're going to Mistfall, like here's the vibe of the city, it's nature centric, here's some songs from the soundtrack, things like that, that he can kind of like go off of, and it's been really fun to kind of go back and forth of me being like, I'm picturing this, and then he sends me back a clip, and I'm like, that's it, you did it, oh, great, cool, like that's incredible. So yeah, he does a great job, and if anyone's interested in the music, you can find it in any of our episodes, obviously, but
Mhm.
if you want to like listen to it all the time, it's on our Patreon. So
Yeah.
um, yeah.
It's great. we for our stuff we tend to I tend to put in royalty free video game soundtracks,
Yeah.
which helps, you know. It's but we're right now we've got a sound designer that's going to work on our team now, and we're going to start creating our own intros music, which is going to be really fun. We're going to work on more sound effects. It's going to be great.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have an underrated game soundtrack? This is a good question.
Okay, this one I listen to, and I listen to the Anthem soundtrack all the time.
Hmm.
Anthem being like the flop of a game from BioWare, unfortunately, that was like had potential and then didn't get off the ground ever.
No.
But the soundtrack from it is like so good. Like I really like it. The composer for that is, I think it's Sarah Schachner, and I probably said her name wrong. But she does a lot of stuff with like Assassin's Creed as well. She kind of does like a mixture of like orchestral with like a kind of like electronic a lot of times, and
Hmm.
so it's kind of like modern classical, I guess, if you want to get
Hmm.
weird with genres and stuff.
Yeah.
But that would be my like sleeper pick out there
Hmm.
if you're interested in getting into soundtracks.
Hmm.
What about you? Do you have one?
I finding a lot of like I was looking up old games and I found like a lot of the Naruto Ninja Storm games have like
Sure.
really they're really good. Some of the stuff is just really good. And then what else? Trying to think. Metal Gear Solid obviously has like
Okay.
fucking like the stuff
Bangers and just
yeah,
good
a
ones.
lot of
Yeah.
great bangers out there. Stuff I wouldn't be able to to use in in our
Yeah.
series, but still great stuff. I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, those are those are some really good ones. I always feel like the more variety a game has to different situations, the better it is in terms of like trying to be immersed in it. You know.
Yeah, I think another one I really like is the Horizon, both I guess both of the soundtracks for Horizon, like Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden
Mhm.
West. Is that the name? Yeah. Because they're like huge albums. I think they have like at least like two whole albums, if not like a four-disc sort of thing
Mhm.
going on. So it's like, I mean, 60 songs probably at least that they're going through, and like you're covering combat, you're covering storytelling, you're covering like the beginning towards the end, and like seeing the development of like the emotions across the game. So that's another really good
Mhm.
one, especially for like what you said, for like variety of like different feelings, emotions, and every situation kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel like that's very important. For me, just stealing your music. No, no. Uh, but but yeah, that's always great to see in games that they really do care about soundtracks because I feel like that really helps you get into the feel of it. I know that we use a lot of Pokemon soundtracks because that really does remind me of like a childhood thing of getting into again to that like yeah, and there are quite good bangers in there to be fair, especially
Yeah.
yeah. Go
Oh
ahead.
no, you go.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that like yeah, like drawing on like games from like our childhood. I remember there's like one song specifically that we use in the podcast that was influenced by um like Ocarina of Time
Mhm.
specifically, because which obviously like music's really important to a lot of Zelda games. But it was like specifically the music when you go and talk to the owl Gamora Gabora. It's like I don't know what I call it, the owl song. I don't know if it has like a more official name, but like I was like, you need to reference this song because like it to me it just is like a character that comes back. It has to have some sort of like theme song of like, oh, there's this guy, this little troublemaker again, or like, here's this person to spread wisdom that I don't understand what it means. So it's so fun to be able to draw on like, yeah, like when we were kids, and those kind of feelings.
Yeah, because they do impose like a feeling of that you want to recreate within the series. I remember, I no, not that I remember, but I think it's really cool to draw on things that uh, made us, you know, like happy, for example. You know,
Yeah.
our first little animation we did, we had to have background music, and I was like, why don't we just put Cerulean City? Because I played Black and White 2 very often, and I stayed in Cerulean just for the music most of the time because it was a big banger. Like,
Yeah.
I still got it here,
That's
but
a good one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm. What's your what would you say is your are you I actually never asked this. Are you an anime fan?
I'm not.
Oh.
It's like I want to be an
Hmm.
anime fan, but like it's just time commitment. It sometimes gets to me.
Hmm.
So I watch some animes, and like I'm trying to devote more time to it. So I have watched. I started Delicious in Dungeon.
Hmm.
I'm like halfway through Attack on Titan. I've watched some Sailor Moon like back in college. I'd like watch that while we were like
Hmm.
studying and stuff. Those are probably like the three main ones that I've like delved enough into to
Hmm.
like know some stuff, but yeah, I want to watch a lot more.
Hmm. Because I was gonna say, well, if you had a favorite opening or OST, which
Uh,
yeah.
I mean, the Attack on
Hmm.
Titan, like the
Yeah.
opening for like I think it's the first
Yeah,
season.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like when they changed that, I was like mad. I was like, come on, guys, like you had
Hmm.
a real good one with that one.
Hmm.
But I get it.
Yeah. First one that came to mind is in terms of an opening. You probably never seen it. It's called Tokyo Ghoul. It's got this
Oh
really sick like it goes metal. It's like Japanese metal, and it goes like oh, and it starts very like whispering to you, and then it goes yeah, it goes like Oshiete, Oshiete, oh no,
It'd be fun to create your own like anime intro for D&D.
Probably could. You probably could. Hey Alex, get on it.
Yeah,
Get on
yeah, get on
it.
it real quick.
We got a new short coming up. We need an anime
Ex-
opening
exactly.
now.
Maybe we'll do
Hmm.
I like joked with him because on like a recent episode, one of our players started listening to Dragon Ball, or not listening, watching Dragon Ball Z, and the other players are big Dragon Ball Z fans. I'm like, y'all should like do like a Dragon Ball Z like one shot. Like I don't know
Hmm.
enough to be part of that, but like y'all know a lot, so you should do that. And they were like, that's a good idea. Maybe we will. So maybe look for that down the line. I don't know.
Yeah. Um, Also, for people who who would want to watch Dragon Ball and don't want to watch through the sifting the sifting mess that is the Dragon Ball universe, I say go watch Dragon Ball Abridged, Dragon Ball Z Abridged. They're essentially people who really love the series made their own version of Dragon Ball. They dubbed over every character and they have great
Oh,
comedic tones, and it's a bit of an old series, but it still holds up in my opinion. And then it kind of starts out lower quality, and then they move up to like holy crud, the sound design is awesome. And they recently did a commentary on just how it was because it was I think it was 15 years ago when they first started.
hey,
Yeah, but yeah,
hey, yes,
yeah, very quotable stuff. Very love it. Yeah, one of the guys who made it, Lanny Patur, he's a D&D, he's a dungeon master as well, and he makes a really good series as well called Roll with Me, which I'm on episode 34 out of 100 and something, so I'm catching
yeah.
up.
Gotta catch up.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. Yeah, I'll have to check
Hmm.
that one out.
Yeah, to listeners as well. Get on it.
Yeah, get on it.
Listen to me. Listen to to This Could Get Dicey podcast, and then go watch Dragon Ball Z
Yes, yeah.
Abridged.
Too much,
Hmm.
too much D&D, too much stuff to take in all the time.
Oh.
That's my problem. It's like
Hmm.
between hobbies and then media, right? It's like who has the time?
Hmm. You gotta be very creative with your content. To be fair, I feel like whenever you're drawing, don't watch TV. Listen to a podcast. Whenever you're
Right.
when you got if you just want to lay down and do nothing, watch something on your computer or TV. That's the key to it. And then.
Definitely finding the
Hmm.
balance of like, okay, I want to play like something on my Switch in handheld mode. What can I want to watch it, but I want it to be kind of background. Okay,
Hmm.
cool. Let's get through the 4 hour episodes of Critical Role while I'm painting
Hmm.
minis,
Yeah.
uh, that kind of thing.
Yeah. It's the silence that really just gets to you, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, I don't want to hear that.
Hmm.
I don't want to hear the silence.
Yeah, I want to hear my own thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we are now nearing the end as I see my bus in the horizon. I'd like to thank you again, Becky, for taking the time to chat with me. You can take this time to shout out any upcoming projects of or series that you're working on at the moment.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad your bus is coming and it's not running too late. This could get dicey. We release new episodes like every Wednesday, um, except for like the last Wednesday of the month is our little talk show recap thing. But we'll also be trying out Cobalt Press's new Tales of the Valiant TTRPG, and so if you'd like to hear that one shot, that'll be coming out at the end of July. But yeah, you can find us at TCGD Pod on Instagram and TikTok. And we have a website that's TCGDpod, I think, .com. Hopefully that's true.
I have it right here.
But yeah, okay,
TCG.com. Yeah, you're good. Made
cool,
sure.
cool. And yeah, we have
Yeah.
a Patreon, and check us out wherever you find podcasts. And thank you so much for having me, Nick. And this was a fun little chat.
Yeah, thank you for coming along. You are now the second person on our little talk show as well, so this is great. So
I'm honored to get in so
yeah.
early. Yeah.
Yeah. This will be the spike. We're going to it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We'll carry on.
I also know that you guys have a really good website, talking about having your recaps and all the lore as well. The
Oh,
about
thank
page
you.
talks about all you guys' interests, hobbies. You know, a lot of the questions I was able to gather was because of the website, which is very
Oh,
helpful. I didn't I didn't
thank
have to
you.
like Instagram stalk people from a distance.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I think it's the websites are helpful because like I like doing a lot of lore stuff, so I hope it's helpful for listeners to be able to like go find some of the lore and get a little more deeper information. So yeah, check it out.
Yeah. I'm about to get on my bus. I have to go. Bye. Bye. I hope you guys like the podcast. I'm gonna keep doing this if you don't like it. Like I keep saying, if you do like it, give a comment, tell someone, say hi, give me a like. I don't know. Bye.